Darth Vader, no doubt, the most powerful and haunting figure in the galaxy. He was feared by all and favored by none. Beyond his hatred life, nothing came close except for himself and his regret for losing Padme. In the Clone Wars, we see the clones as obedient and trusting of the Jedi commanders. In Episode 3, we see the 501st Legion follow Anakin into the Jedi Temple to execute Order 66 upon Palpatine's request, seeing Anakin as their commander of the highest order. And once Anakin transforms into Vader once and for all, the 501st Legion eventually becomes Vader's fist, and are more loyal to him now than ever. But just exactly how loyal was he to them? And what was their relationship? It's no doubt that Vader was cold to just about everyone, including his son up until his redemption. However, the way he treated his stormtroopers might surprise you. For example, in the canon novel Tarkin, Vader witnesses the failure of one of his captains and ends up giving him several more chances after this. Vader's fist was his first group of clones whom he made sure they respected, rather than just feared like the rest of his officers. This leads me to the next point. Vader hated the officers. He felt no loyalty or attachment towards them. He felt they were just a bunch of old men hungry for power between one another, which led them to making stupid decisions and losing stormtrooper lives as a result, ordering them poorly into traps, making mistakes like Ozzel did by taking them out of hyperspace prematurely, and all the rest who lacked vision, which he found disturbing. Now, while Vader was more respectful and lenient on his troops, this doesn't mean he was soft or felt their existence outweighed his. In these images, we can see that the troops wanted nothing more than Vader's trust and respect. As he speaks of receiving upgraded armor for his good leadership, he cares not much for these things. Rather, what Vader thinks of him is his most prized possession. Let's take some canon answers from the books Lords of the Sith and Tarkin. In Lords of the Sith, it explains how officers absolutely hated Vader, but the stormtroopers look up to him like a fanboy would. The second facts are from Tarkin. It reads, later, observing the rapport the Dark Lord shared with the stormtroopers who supported him, Tarkin grew more and more convinced that his suspicions were right. Vader might very well be the Jedi Knight, Anakin Skywalker. Tarkin met Anakin in the Clone Wars. He saw how kind and respectful he was to the clones, particularly the 501st, which is what comprised of Vader's fist. Although as time went on, the clones died out and were replaced with humans. Vader would mostly leave the discipline of regular stormtroopers to officers and squad leaders, as he saw the task beneath him. That said, on some missions to Imperial planets, his disgust at the commanders themselves is shown well. On a visit to the former separatist planet of Murkana, he almost force-choked a stormtrooper commander, but was stopped only by Grand Moff Tarkin, who had formal powers over him in that situation. While Vader's relationship was very good, possibly the best of any other worker at the Death Star, he did not let that get to their heads. His value for himself was like that of a king, and everyone else was his pawn. If the situation came down to his life over theirs, he valued himself above all. In the first issue of the new Star Wars comics by Marvel and Disney, we can see that Vader lifts his troopers in the air, slamming them together to act as a shield from oncoming sniper shots. While that is said in the Legends comic Darth Vader and the Lost Command, however, Vader is seen as protecting his troops by using himself as the shield from a bomb. So it can go both ways depending on his troops, and just how fatal the attack was on his life. There was one thing that caused him to kill anyone who saw him without a mask though, which is what happened in this scene, where he breaks a stormtrooper's neck. Vader's connection with the 501st worked very well, because he had first-hand combat experience, and so did the troopers. He respected that. Most of them just after Revenge of the Sith were still clones at this point, and he bonded with their loyalty throughout his life and on the field. In the novelization of Rogue One, we can read Director Krennic's thoughts while he speaks to Vader on Mustafar, becoming a little more arrogant with him, thinking that Vader was a man of the sword and would appreciate the tone. He was wrong, as we saw. As for his connection with regular stormtroopers outside of the 501st, they didn't directly work with Vader. Most commands were passed down via officers, and only very rarely did Vader go to fight with stormtroopers outside of his legion. Unlike any commander, Vader actually always went headfirst into battle, with his troops following behind. This should give you some insight as to just how confident Vader was and unafraid of death he became. Are you surprised that Vader didn't punish them as easily as he did the officers? I like that he was respectful and honored his men. It shows his moral code was a bit more human-like than we sometimes see. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, can we hit that like button? Write your suggestions below, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's episode of Star Wars Theory. Thanks again, my fellow Jedi and Sith friends. I'll see you soon. Until then, remember,
The Force will be with you.